For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind. By the might of his inexhaustible armies, a million worlds stand against the dark. He is a rotting carcass, the carrion lord of the Imperium, held in life by marvels from the dark age of technology and the thousand souls sacrificed each day so his may continue to burn. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. It is to suffer an eternity of carnage and slaughter. It is to have cries of anguish and sorrow drowned by the thirsting laughter of dark gods. This is a dark and terrible era where you will find little comfort or hope. Forget the power of technology and science. Forget the promise of progress and advancement. Forget any notion of common humanity or compassion. There is no peace amongst the stars, for in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. The fact that just saying that gave me chills down my spine is an indication of how much I love Warhammer 40,000. Which is odd for someone like me, being utterly obsessed with such a depressing and, dare I say, grimdark setting. I mean, Kelly, aren't you depressed enough? Do you really need a depressing sci-fi setting to really add to it? To which I say two things. First of all, what are you, my mom? And secondly, yeah, probably, but also I really love Warhammer. I love the world building, I love the art, I love the books. I just love it. Because of that, in a series of videos, I am going to discuss things that I love, critiques, and hopes in relation to the setting. So, to immediately scare off the 4 conservatives who didn't read the title of the video, let's talk about female Space Marines. I love Space Marines about as much as I love 40k. They're my third favorite army next to Tyranids and Custodes, and if you think about it, Custodes are really just taller Space Marines that are better at everything, so really, they're my second favorite. And I mean, can you blame me? They're the poster boys of 40k. At least every person who plays the tabletop has painted at least one Space Marine, and if you don't play the tabletop, you've probably read a book that stars one. I would probably bet that every game, book, movie, TV show, and I don't even know, newspaper article that talks about 40k probably mentions the boys in blue, or red, or green, or black, or yellow, the Space Marines. Space Marines are created from the gene seed of a Primarch, one of the 20 sons of the Emperor, 2 of which are missing, and we will get back to them. Obviously, I really like Space Marines. I like the design of them, I like basically all the chapters, all 9 traitors, all 9 loyalists. They're just really cool. I mean, look at the art of any Black Templar and tell me it isn't the coolest thing you've ever seen. Look at the Alpha Legion. I mean, better yet, look at my Alpha Legion that I've collected for the Horus Heresy. I love them a lot, but there is one gripe I have. That gripe being that Space Marines are a boys-only club. The argument for this basically goes that because they're all kind of cloned from the Primarchs, that they'd all be boys, because all the Primarchs are boys. First of all, they aren't clones. Gene Seed is a thing that makes up Space Marines. It is the catch-all term for those germ cells and viral machines that have been genetically engineered to develop into the various organs that are implanted into a normal human adolescent male to transform him into a transhuman Space Marine. Now, I will concede that that quote says adolescent male. That is true, but let's be honest, that's not the part that makes a Space Marine. Rather, it's the organs implanted into him. None of these new organs are male-specific. It's not like the Space Marines are getting a brand new set of genitalia. In fact, the Space Marines are chemically castrated, so it doesn't really matter what genitalia they have. So how could they be implemented into the lore? Well, there are 18 Primarchs, so why not make the 2nd and 11th Primarchs the 2 female Primarchs? We know that Belisarius Cawl used Traitor Gene Seed in the creation of the Primaris Marines, so why not have a chapter of female Space Marines based off of the 2 missing Primarchs? There could be really interesting tension there, just like with the tension between Primaris and the Old Marines. I would be really interested to see how an Old Marine, or perhaps even Gilliman himself, would feel about a Marine made off of missing Primarch gene seed. Another argument that I see more often than the lore reason is that female Space Marines already exist, and they're called Sisters of Battle. I love the Sisters. I have a kill team of them, but I'm gonna be honest, they're not Space Marines. Sisters on the tabletop are a horde/gunline army. Basically, you line them all up, and you shoot anything that comes in your way, and you have a lot of bodies. Sometimes a couple of vehicles, sometimes not really. Space Marines, on the other hand, are a semi-elite multi-role army. They can do melee, they can do shooting, they can do a mix. Sisters, you can have some melee, but not really. In the lore, Sisters don't really act like Space Marines. Space Marines, save for the Black Templars, are not really believers in the cult of the Emperor, not in the same way that a Sister of Battle is. They believe, but they don't practice, really. As well as this, their power levels are nowhere near the same. Space Marines are superhumans, they're practically demigods, whereas the Sororitas are just normal women, whose power only comes from their faith in the Emperor and not from any physical augmentation. Behavior-wise, I'd compare the Sisters more to Black Templars or Grey Knights, not so much the Ultramarines or the Imperial Fists or the Dark Angels. And if you're a fan of Black Templars or Grey Knights, then sure, go ahead, collect all the Sisters of Battle you want. If you're not a fan of those aesthetics, then you're kind of out of luck with the Sisters. You won't really have a female character to follow who isn't a Sister of Battle, nor will you have an army to collect that isn't Sisters. Finally, there is a case to be made, and I'd argue it's probably the dumbest case, which is, well, you can just kit bash them, can't you? It's true that Sisters of Battle heads do fit into Space Marine torsos. However, that only really works if you have a 3D printer and you don't care about GW's IP, which I don't. But I also don't have the money for a 3D printer. And if you don't have a 3D printer, then you have to shell out an extra $60 for heads. $60 just to use heads. Does that not just make it a very, very expensive pink tax? I think that's one of the biggest issues here, which is that female Space Marines can already exist as the models, but cost $60 extra for no real good reason. All Games Workshop would have to do is include a sprue of female head sculpts. That alone would make an infinite number of people happy. It's not like people are going to walk out of a tournament like LVO just because someone has different heads on their Space Marines. As far as I can tell, nobody arguing for this position really wants Space Marines with boob armor and feminine figures. I don't think anyone is under the delusion that female Space Marines would look like that. They'd be ripped like hell. They'd look like male Space Marines, except for their heads. So that's it. That's all the arguments that I've heard as to why female Space Marines shouldn't exist, and why I think those arguments are kinda dumb. If you have any arguments against it, then please let me know. I won't respond, but it feeds the algorithm, and that's nice. If you like this video, leave a like, please subscribe. I am trying to get videos out on a weekly basis, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later.